Good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class, live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. Last week, we broke into Genesis chapter 31, and I think that's where we're continuing today. Always a joy to hear the wonders of Torah coming out of the nation of Israel, specifically out of Jerusalem. Always great stuff, top shelf, and we look forward to hearing what Rabbi Goldberg's got to share with us today. So let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing today. Oh, I got Bart on the screen. Rabbi, can you say something? Say hello.
Shalom, shalom from Israel. Hope everybody is fine. Good to see you all. Good to see the people here. I know that there are also others in other places and others are listening after that. Everything is fine. Welcome from Jerusalem. Blessings from Jerusalem to everybody. Okay. Yes, everything is fine here. I hope everything is fine all over the world except for Ukraine. We know that there is a problem. In Africa, there is a problem. You know, there are places with problems. So we need to pray. Let's dive inside. Let's start. Let's learn something. Dan, did you prepare your thoughts? Because you're going to read today some things. Excellent. So I want to start with a very famous story and to ask you if you know what is the source of this story. Okay, let's start step by step. The story is the new clothes. It is, no, here it is. The emperor's new clothes. We all know the story, I think. I assume that everybody knows the story. If you can, Dan can read it for a moment, please, the story.
All right, the plot. Two swindlers arrive at the capital city of an emperor who spends lavishly on clothing at the expense of the state matters. Posing as weavers, they offer to supply him with magnificent clothes that are invisible to those who are stupid or incompetent. The emperor hires them, and they set up looms and go to work. A succession of officials and then the emperor himself visit them to check their progress. Each sees that the looms are empty but pretends otherwise to avoid being thought a fool. Finally, the weavers report that the emperor's suit is finished. They mime dressing him, and he sets off in a procession before the whole city. The townsfolk uncomfortably go along with the pretense, not wanting to appear inept or stupid, until a child blurts out that the emperor is wearing nothing at all. The people then realize that everyone has been fooled. Although startled, the emperor continues the procession, walking more proudly than ever.
Well, we all know this nice story. It's a story that we tell Hans Christian Andersen, you know, those two brothers with all of the stories that they have. I think that this is one of the only stories that Walt Disney didn't do from this a cartoon or something. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but we all know this story. And let's try to understand a bit. Let's peel it a bit, you know, this story with a bit more, I will say, profound understanding. Okay, let's go step by step. What do you think is the meaning of this story? Let's start, you know, let's hear everybody.
That people can believe in lies.
Okay, first, understanding people can believe in lies. And what else, please?
People can try to live a lie in order to cover their shame.
So this is speaking about the king, that he continued on. They prefer to stay in a lie, just not to be ashamed for what they realize suddenly, right? Very nice. Okay. Now I want to go one more step ahead, okay? Can you explain to me, why do we have clothings?
Modesty, and also in northern climes, warmth.
So one thing you said, I didn't catch the first thing you said.
First one, modesty.
Modesty. Okay. Oh, Oh, now we're starting to speak. So for getting warm, I understand. You agree with me, all of you, that it's a bit weird that the only creature in the world who needs to have something to get warm is the human being. Okay, I never saw a lion organizing for himself clothes, right? I never saw a monkey organizing for himself clothes. We do that. Did we needed those clothes in the Garden of Eden? The answer is no. So we broke something, okay, and we went down one step from our position to put up clothing. If it was only for getting cold or warm, it's one thing, but it's also related with modesty. My appearance in front of people. Am I in a nice appearance? Am I in I will say, in a suit appearance with a much more professional way of showing myself? So the clothings are also, in Hebrew you say this, it's very interesting, that the clothings are also hiding something in behind who we are. In the Hebrew word, the word beged is also coming from the word that I'm lying a bit. I'm not saying the truth. So the clothing is also hiding a bit who am I in behind the scenes. It could be that it's also showing who I am, but it also could be that I'm also hiding a bit who I am. I'm coming with a very nice appearance, even though I'm a very big scum, So I can use the clothing also to hide who exactly I am in the inside. And now we're coming to another question. Who is the human? Is the human is his clothing, or the human is something else? What do you say?
I say it's combination. Sorry,
Okay.
Mike.
No, please carry on.
Lara, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's combination because our clothes will reflect how we want people to see us. It gives us a certain character, which also comes from our mind. And who we are is what our soul is made of.
Okay. So what you're saying to me is when someone is very, I will say, if I understand correctly what you said, when someone is in a very honest inside himself, with himself, so he will wear clothing that are showing him in the right way. If someone have a bit of a lie with himself, so he will wear other things. So he wants to be in a different appearance.
Yes, if you're a poor person and you dress up all very, showy and whatever, you make yourself look like you're a rich person, but you really are not. That goes to show where your mind is, what your personality is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. It is. It makes sense. In a moment, we'll go one step ahead. Okay. You wanted to say something, Mike? You want to add something?
Basically, I think it was the same there, Rabbi, that your clothing can actually be used as a costume.
Oh, very nice.
So you can cover up what you are or make yourself appear to be something you are not.
Fair enough. Excellent. Now you're starting to speak. We're starting to dig inside. Now I have another question. When you said the clothing is to cover who we are, when you're saying we are, what do you mean? I am the body of myself or something else?
Something else.
If someone is lacking, God forbid, in his hand, so he is a different person, he's something else. Someone who grew up in a normal way, but he had, God forbid, a car accident and he lost his legs. So that's it, he is something else. Or he's the same person, but he His appearance is a bit different here. His body is a bit different. The body is not his appearance. The body is not him. So who is the man? Or maybe we can say that the body, our body, this thing that we have, is also some sort of a clothing for our soul. And now, when the king decided to continue on, maybe what he said, or maybe the inside of this thing, is that he wanted to show that he himself is the same king. Now, I know that the story is not showing it, okay? But let's ask ourselves, when we meet a king, the England king, for example, okay, or the queen, when she's getting dressed like a queen, how much people spoke about the dresses of the queen, exactly what she wear and how she wanted to annoy the president of the United States, so she wear the clothing that the other one gave her, things like that. The clothing is some sort of a way to show off, but the body is also some sort of a way to show off who am I inside, because my soul is me, and my appearance is my body, and I'm covering it with a clothing. So now we have already, I will say, 4 stages. How we see the king when he is getting dressed as a king with all of the performance. How we see the king when he's going to sleep with his night bedding. How we see the king when he is naked, like in the story. And how we see the king like who exactly he is inside. He's a nice man, less nice man, whatever it is. Now, it's not only the king. Each one and one of us is a king. There's a say of our sages that each one of us is supposed to say, for me, the world was created. And if you will think about this for a moment, the world is a shape of a ball, right? So tell me, please, where is the center of the world? Each one where he is standing, this is for him the center of the world, right? How much responsibility. But again, we have few levels of the appearance of us. We have the appearance of the clothing, we have the appearance of the body, we have the appearance of the inside, and we are trying to show this off, I will say it like that, in all sorts of ways. This story have a very, very old engines, and this is the first time, I think this is also going to be the last thing that I'm going to show you from what we call the Zohar. I'm sure that you all heard about the Zohar. This is the mysterious side of the Hebrew nation. Let's learn a small paragraph, and I think it's very important if we want to continue on with the stories of Genesis. Everything here is related with the things that we're going to learn. So let's jump for a moment to the Zohar, and let's read it. Here it is, okay? Now we're not going to read it in Hebrew, okay? We're going to read it in English. Dan, you prepared yourself? Please. Fair enough. Also, it's not in Hebrew, by the way. It's in Aramaic, okay? But let's read it. It's 4 stages, and we will start to realize how much it is with a depth, profound understanding. Please, let's read the first one. Rabbi Simon said.
Rabbi Simon said.
Can we have the, Dan, can we have the page number, track date, whatever?
You're in the Zohar?
I'm sending it now on the chat, okay?
Thanks, Rabbi. Okay, Rabbi Simeon said, woe to the person who says that this Torah has come to present an ordinary story and ordinary words. For if this were so, even in this time we would be able to make a Torah of ordinary words, one better than any of them. If the Torah comes merely to present ordinary words, then there are even greater words among the nobles of the world. If so, let us seek those words and make a Torah of them. However, all of the words of Torah are sublime and supernal secrets.
First of all, think about this for a moment. Today we have the Harry Potter novel, okay? A few years before that, we had the Narnia novel, okay? We had the...
C.S. Lewis, yeah.
Yes, and he is a great writer, okay? He saw few generations ahead. We had also other novels. Who said...
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
With the rings, exactly. Who said that if we want to speak about novels, and it's only stories, so you didn't understand anything that's happening, okay? And now let's continue on to the next part, especially because, and this is one of the reasons why we're learning it, because in a moment we're going to see how Jacob met angels. So let's see for a moment, please, this part, please, second one. Just a moment, I will put it
All right.
in the exact place. Here it is, please.
It says, come and see the upper world and the lower world are evenly balanced, Israel below and the high angels above. Of the lofty angels it is written, he makes his angels as winds, from Psalm 104:4. This refers to their state in the high place. When they come down to earth, the angels clothe themselves in the garments of this world. Had they not clothed themselves in the garments after the fashion of this world, they would not have been able to exist in this world, and the world would not suffer them to exist. If this is so with regard to angels, then how much more so with regard to the Torah, which created them and all the worlds, and everything exists for its sake. When the Torah did come down into the world, were it not clothed in the garments of this world, the world would not have been able to suffer it.
We're saying that the Torah, we understand that the Torah is, I will say, the thing that created this world. Therefore, when you want to bring the Torah, it's much above this world. It created this world. Think about this for a moment. When the carpenter is building up some sort of a table, the table is not exist before he's only bringing things together. You know, they existed already, but he is shaping them differently. God created this world from nothing, and he created this world. He did it with the help, I'll say, of the Torah. Now, when the Torah came to this world, it's not the same thing that God created this world. It must dress itself with clothing that it will be reasonable in this world. Just like the angels, we don't have angels today. But in those days, in the days that God appeared in front of the people with his prophecies to Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac and Jacob and others, so there were angels here. But the angels that are some sort of a spiritual thing became reality in this world like people, okay? And the same thing also with the Torah. The Torah, we have stories, but the stories are just only the clothings of the spiritual side of what's happening there. Okay? As we said before, the emperor new clothings. The Torah is getting dressed with the new clothings to come here to this world. Let's continue on to the third paragraph, okay? Please. Therefore,
the story of the Torah constitutes its garments. He who thinks that the garment is actually the Torah and not something else, let his spirit deflate and let him have no portion in the world to come. It was in this connection that David said, "Open my eye that I may behold wondrous things out of your Torah," from Psalm 119:18, meaning that which is under the garment is really Torah.
We have the clothings, but the clothings is not me. Okay, we have the body. I have a body, thank God, everybody have a body, but the body is not me. There's something else inside. And on the same level, the Torah also. Now, let's see how much people are dumb when they think that only the clothing is the most important thing. You know, what we said at the end of the story of Hans Christian Andersen, you know, those two brothers, we said, but you said it's true, this is how the story is appeared in front of us. But it says that he was stupid enough to continue with the lie. It's true when you look on the things only in the eyes of how things appears in this world. But when you understand that there is also more levels, this king, saw things that he didn't want, that the clothing will hide. Please look now, the last part, please. Oh, it's almost the last part. Come and see, please.
Come and see, a garment is visible to all. Those fools, when they see a man in a garment that appears good to them, seek no farther. They think that the garment is the actual thing. However, the essence of the body is the soul.
Wow. We're starting to realize what's happening here. We have levels inside. Okay? Not only, he looks very nice, therefore I'm with him. No, there's more than that. What exactly is characterism? How much today, okay, with Hollywood, we look on people and we say they look nice, they look very, efficient, whatever it is, but the behavior is one of the worst wrong things that we can have. And people know that today, but they're not looking on the behavior, they're looking on the outside, the outcome of things. And now we will read the last part. Sorry, please. No, it's not the last part. There are two more parts that is explaining what he said here. Please. Just
so, the Torah has a body. The commandments of the Torah are called the body of the Torah. This body is clothed in a garment made up of the stories of this world. The fools of the world look on nothing save the garment, which is the story of the Torah and nothing more. They do not look at that which is under the garment. The wise who worship the Most High King, those who stood at Mount Sinai, look only at the soul. It is the true Torah. In the world to come, they will look at the soul of the Torah.
I will give an example, okay, of the body. For example, you know that we are not eating let's go to, we all know that we're doing circumcision because Abraham did it, okay? So this is some sort of a story. Why are we doing those commandments? Because Abraham? No, there's something else there. This is only a story how it appeared in front of us. The angel fighted against Jacob and he caused him a damage in his leg. Therefore, till today, this part of the limb, of the leg of the limb that we are not eating. Why are we not eating it? Because Jacob got injured? No, there's something else there. We need to understand what is behind the scenes of this story. Okay? Those are the things that we're learning. And here we're finalizing. We will finalize here. Almost we will finalize. Come and see, please.
Come and see. Thus it is above, and the body. And
there is a garment.
There is a garment, and body, and soul of souls. The heavens and their host are the garment. The congregation of Israel is the body which receives the soul, which is the glory of Israel, which is the very Torah. The soul is the ancient Holy One. All are connected one to the other.
We have more and more profound levels here on this thing. And we will finish here, we will finalize here. Please read the last paragraph.
Woe to those sinners of the world who say that this Torah is nothing but an ordinary story. They look at the garment and no further. Happy are the righteous who regard the Torah properly. Wine cannot stay except in a jar, so Torah cannot abide except in this garment. Because of this, one must seek to look at the Torah only through what exists under the garment. Thus, all those words and stories are garments.
We're starting to realize what's happening here. We're going back to the story of the naked king, okay? That suddenly we're starting to realize that he who is a naked, basically we see much more the inside things and not the appearance that is trying to hide a lot of the inside that we have. The story of the emperor new clothings have a very long roots already in the Zohar of the Hebrew nation when they're learning Torah. They're also trying to learn the Torah and to find how to peel down, to take off the clothings that we see, to understand the inside meaning of the Torah. I'm clear? I hope I'm clear. Okay. Now, why this is important for me to say this today? Because we came to a stage where we're going to learn, or we are learning stories. Jacob, he's running from Laban, and then he will meet Esau. The Torah is not telling us stories, you know. I see on the internet a lot, especially not from the Israeli people, okay, who are teaching the stories of the Bible. Fair enough. This is exactly the same like showing the clothing of the king. Very nice. Let's be on the store with the clothing. But someone needs to wear them. There's much more inside there. Let's learn the inside understanding and meaning of those stories. Now, I won't be able here to say maybe too much, but I will be able to say, to peel a bit more from only the stories. Just like we did last week, for example, things, okay? Now we're going to the stories that are more with the relation between the Hebrew nation and the other nations, because we have already the 12 tribes. We have Jacob, who is basically starting the nation, and all of his kids are part of this nation. And now we're speaking about the relation between the Hebrew nation and other nations. One, or the first one, and we go now, let's jump to, now we will start also to learn. But again, we need to understand that it's much more than just the stories. If you have any questions till now, please tell me, please. If not, we will continue. It's okay. Not everybody together. Fair enough. I shocked you today. Okay. It's usually not going to go. This part we saw last week, okay? And we started to understand why the Torah is telling us that Jacob convinced his wives to come back with him, or that they all need to go back to their homeland. And one of the things that we saw, that God is asking us, even though he is telling us the dream or the mission of our life, the purpose of our life, and we know what we need to do, it's supposed to be in harmony with the people among us that we are related with, that we are connected with. Those are things that we saw last week. There is also another interesting point here. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I need to mention it. If not, maybe I'm saying it twice, but it's okay. That Jacob also must get permission from Laban. Not only from his family, also from Laban. Okay, we see this. It's being written down here. No. Let me find it just a moment. I lost this verse.
I think you went back to chapter 26 last week, Rabbi. You showed parts from 26 and 28, and
let me see for a moment. Oh, it is. I saw it. Last one. Here it is. Please read verse number 25. 25, 26.
25. It came to pass when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away, and I will go to my place and to my land." 26. Give me my wives and my children for whom I worked for you, and I will go, for you know my work which I have worked for you.
Now, first of all, we see that he's asking permission. We saw last week the same thing, that Moses is asking permission from his father-in-law. Remember that? I can show this again. It's chapter 5 there, okay, in Exodus. We know also that God had put in a lot of effort to convince Pharaoh to release the Hebrew nation. Why? Why didn't he just send them out? Said to them, okay, I'm going to kill the Pharaoh and just it. No, it was very important for God that Pharaoh will allow the Hebrew nation to go out. There was supposed to be an agreement also in the last history, okay, that we're speaking last century, 100 years ago. We had what we call in San Remo, okay, in Italy. They all gathered together and they decided, the nations, to give the Israelite land to the Hebrew people. And we had also again in 1947 that the United Nations decided to give it to the Hebrew people. We need this permission. We're not working, I will say, in an open space with ourselves, like the Hebrew people are from Mars and the rest of the world are from a different place, okay, from Venus, okay? We are working together. Now, it all starts in the beginning with verse number 27. Please read verse number 27.
27. And Laban said to him, "If only I have now found favor in your eyes, I have divined, and the Lord has blessed me for your sake."
We will see the same sentence or the same wording with Pharaoh. You remember that before he is sending us out? Pharaoh is saying the same thing exactly. Let me show this for a moment. Bothering me here, sorry. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Before Pharaoh is letting the Hebrew people to go out, he's saying something very interesting. Read verse 31 and 32.
31. So he called for Moses and Aaron at night, and he said, "Get up and get out from among my people, both you as well as the children of Israel, and go worship the Lord as you have spoken." 32. Take also your flocks and also your cattle, as you have spoken, and go, but you shall also bless me.
Oops. You see, the same blessing. Suddenly, we find that every time, now, today it's much easier to say this, but we knew that very long time ago. Every time that the Hebrew people came to a place, they also gave some sort of a blessing to this place. I will say something very hard, but it's true, okay? I have videos of influencers in Lithuania, people in Lithuania, that they're saying that they are very upset with themselves that 2 generations ago or generation ago, they kicked out all the Hebrew people, because now they're asking that the Hebrew people will come back and bless them because they lost the blessing. The same thing happened with Spain. Think about this for a moment. Spain was the empire of those days until the time that they have decided to send out all the Hebrew people, and they lost it. The blessing is coming, and everybody understands that. On the other side, after the people are saying, okay, you can go out, what is happening with Pharaoh 7 days after that? He's regretting that he gave them permission to go out, right? he's fighting against them. What will happen with Laban? Now let's go back to our let's go to our chapter. Okay, we saw this last time. At the end, he is supposed to run away. Please read verses, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
17. So Jacob rose, and he lifted up his sons and his wives upon the camels, and he led all his livestock and all his possessions that he had acquired, the purchase of his acquisitions, which he had acquired in Padan Aram, to come to Isaac his father to the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and meanwhile Rachel stole her father's teraphim. And Jacob concealed from Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he was fleeing.
He was hiding it, that he's running away, right? And Laban, who said to him in 2 chapters ago that he can go out, will run after him. The same thing, the same thing that happened also with Pharaoh later on in the history. We're starting to realize or to see that there is some sort, I will say, of a consistent way that on one side, when the Hebrew people are coming to one place, they're giving some sort of a blessing there. When they want to go out, they are hesitating, as we saw with Jacob. He's hesitating to go out, not to go out, even though God told him to go out. He's trying to convince everybody. And he's running away, and those who gave the permission are starting to fight or to run away, to run again, to try to stop this thing that they're going out. And it happened along history all the time. This story here is not some sort of a story. It's some sort of I will say, the structure of the world with the Hebrew nation, that on one side is coming and giving blessings, on the other side is managing to bring a lot of jealousy and a lot of bad eyes and things like that people are starting very against it. This is some sort of, we call this some sort of a ping pong, the ping pong play that we have on the table, some sort of a dancing together. Yes, some sort of a dancing together, but between the Hebrew nation and the rest of the world. And this is what we see, the continuous of this. You can read it from verse number 22. It's important to read it for a moment.
22. On the third day, Laban was informed that Jacob had fled. So he took his kinsman with him, and he pursued him 7 days' journey, and he overtook him at Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream of the night, and he said to him, beware lest you speak with Jacob either good or evil.
Enough. Look what's happening here. Suddenly, there is some sort of interference of God. Be aware, be careful. There's a limit how much you can push it. Okay, and then Laban, let's read a bit more until 31. Okay.
All right. 27. You have fled secretly. Oh no, 26. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done that you concealed from me and led away my daughters like prisoners of war? Why have you fled secretly and concealed from me and not told me? I would have sent you away with joy and with songs and with drum and with harp, and you did not allow me to kiss my sons and daughters. Now you have acted foolishly. I have the power to inflict harm upon you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, beware of speaking with Jacob, either good or bad.
Enough. Okay, this is another story there. From 30 to the end, it's another story. But first of all, in 27, I wanted to send you out with a lot of joy, with songs. Last time that he did a lot of joy in songs, he gave him, instead of Rachel, he gave him Leah, right? I don't want your songs, I don't want you anything from you anymore. Right? This is what's happening here. We need to understand what is happening here. It's some sort of a sarcasm of this situation, of the relationship that Jacob, the Hebrew, it's not only, it's Jacob and his sons, but it's speaking about all over history, what's happening between the Hebrew people when they are visiting the exiles of others. Now, listen good what I said. I didn't say that the Hebrew people are going out to their exile. The Hebrew people are the only one in this world who have the exact land that God gave them. The rest of the world went out to an exile in the Babylon Tower. And we, the Hebrew people, are visiting the rest of the world in their exile. And when we understand that this is a time that we need to go back, this is where everything is starting to be uncomfortable, because people are feeling that the blessing is going to go away. Now, do you know when the Holocaust could happen, could come to reality? Only when Laban or whoever it is stopping to have a fear from God. Only when the world will become a secular, this is where the Holocaust could appear. Before that, every time, what Laban is saying here is a statement that people always said. I have the power to punish you, but we have, the God is stopping me from punishing you. Only when the people will become secular, won't believe anymore in God, this is where they will be able also to organize a Holocaust and killing the Hebrew nation. We're starting to understand that this story here, it's not a local story of Jacob and Laban, like I see in a lot of places. We're going to teach you what are the stories of the Bible. The stories here are teaching us much more.
Right. So the Torah covers, all time, right? And many, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now let me go another step. Let's continue on this chapter, and let's go another step.
Rabbi, can I please put something in here as well? If you also think about
who is speaking? Who is speaking?
Bias.
I can't see you. Okay, can you open the?
Sorry. I'm sitting in the dark.
Okay, fair enough. Continue, please. Sorry.
Anyways, now that you say about the Hebrew people who Pharaoh sent out, and he also had the power to punish them and so on. It's interesting later on when they passed through the Negev desert, they also started worshiping the golden calf. Okay. Now the reason why I named this is, as you said, Egypt had the power to punish them. And while they were traveling through the desert, they were also, some of them, not doing the Torah as God required. So that gave actually Egypt the chance to punish them. Am I correct?
The story of the golden calf is something that we need to learn, right, Bart? It's not so easy to. No. The golden calf, the golden calf was after the Torah was given, but we're speaking about. There are a few things we can. I don't want to go inside to this too much. The only thing I will say that it was 3,000 people from 600,000 people. So we're speaking about 0.5% of the people who did this golden calf. This was written down. I'm not inventing anything.
No,
But what
What
I
I
want to say,
mean,
no, I want to say, no, listen good.
sorry.
Okay. What I want to say is that the Hebrew nation have two levels. Okay. The first level is that they are the people who are very connected with God. Okay. They are the heart of the nations. And the second level is how they're behaving. This is different things. I won't go inside to this. Here we're trying to learn now something that is related with the relation between the nations and the Hebrew people. And it's going along history. We see this. So you're jumping to another place where we need to investigate a bit about the Hebrew people. Leave this alone for a moment, okay? Don't.
Okay, sorry, Rabbi. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just trying to be very exact with the things.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
The last part, Shmuel, welcome. In a moment, I will give you. I need to say another few, at least two more sentences. The last part of the chapter, okay, is showing something very, I will say, amazing thing, okay, where basically Rachel is stealing the gods of Laban. And he is trying to find it and he can't find it. And then Jacob is very upset with him. We will read it next week. I want to say the most important thing here is that we're starting to realize that along history, the people in the world felt, okay, that the Hebrew nation killed God. Why I'm saying this? Because when the Hebrew nation were in the Hebrew land and we were with the Temple Mount and there was a lot of blessings to the world, everybody saw the appearance of God. We also had the prophecies. When the Hebrew people went out from the Hebrew land to visit the exiles for all the other nations, okay, like we said before, and we lost the prophecy and the blessing was a bit less in the world, people felt that the Hebrew people killed God. So they said they killed Jesus. They have a lot of ways how to say this. There are a lot of clothings how to say this, okay? And it starts here already, where Laban suddenly sees or realizes that he lost all of his gods, all of his blessings. The Hebrew people went out. We're starting to see, again, the structure of history, how it's working with the Hebrew people and with others. We're all together, by the way. It's not, I said to you already more than once, the Hebrew people are like the heart in the body. I never saw a body without a heart, and I never saw a heart without a body. It's not that, as we said before, the Hebrew people are from Mars and the rest are from Venus and we can live separately. No, we are in the same world, all of us together, and we need to know how to jungle together, one with each other. If I will summarize, okay, we learned that the Torah is not just stories. It's not just the clothings. Let's peel them. Let's see what's happening in behind the clothings. Let's see what's happening in behind the body. Let's see what's happening from one person to another person, what's happening inside, and what's happening in those stories of the Torah. And we're starting to see that it's a bit more complicated and much more profound than just the stories. And you will go now to a lot of, I said, a lot of pastors who ask, we will tell you the stories of the Torah. Fair enough, but this is not it. Don't lose it. Yes, Mike, please.
All right. Would it be almost safe to think that Adam and Eve, back in the garden before they were thrown out, when they were clothed, they were actually spirits and then clothed in the human form? Taking this as an analogy from what you're saying today.
It's written. Why do you think to say it like that? It's written down. Let me show you, okay? We don't need to say anything. Let's see what's happening. Okay, when God is taking out, come on. Read verse number 21, please. Mike, I'm done, whoever you want.
21, and the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife shirts of skin, and he dressed them.
Now read it in your way.
That is what I was.
There were spirits.
There were
and he
spirits
organized for them.
clothed in skin.
Skin,
body.
exactly.
Yes.
And
So
we also putting on the skin also some sort of clothings.
Yes.
Exactly. We're starting to see how things are going like that. By the way, the Hebrew people, when they were in the desert, they had no really necessary of clothings. It's written down. Okay, and only when they came inside to the Hebrew people, to the Hebrew land, it's just the same covenant. They were in the Garden of Eden in the desert, and they came to the Hebrew land. This is where they went to the world. But we'll speak about this later on. But exactly what you said, this is it. It's written down. You can also read it like that. You're more than right. You see, sometimes we see. We started. I want to remind you all. Okay. We started with the story. Remember the story that we started? We thought that this story is a nonsense. Suddenly we're starting to see that this story, he is hiding a very profound meaning of life. We have the same with the ugly duck. We have the same. You want me to do a series of stories? Almost all of Hans Christian Andersen's stories are profound stories. If you want, we can do a series of them. Fair enough. Okay, please, Rabbi Shmuel, please. Let's do stories, you know. Who doesn't like stories? Series of stories. Ariel, don't forget to teach your daughter, you know, Anava, all the stories. They are very important ones.
Well, I have to learn first from you, Rabbi.
Rabbi Shmuel, please.
Yeah, okay. I know it's a little bit late, but I want to add just a couple of insights in what the Rob was talking about. I think one of the messages that also comes from the Adam and Eve story, and certainly between Jacob and Laban later on, is the question of the role of God in our personal history. I think we have a tendency to often, and this is something which is probably shared by most of the serious religions today, is that on the one hand, we are personally involved in determining our future, but we always have to be in the background understanding as religious people that God is running the story. And in this portion that we're going to read this week, we're going to talk about the spies who actually came back with a relatively negative report about what they assumed the land of Israel was like, thinking that it was beyond our ability to overcome the people living there, except for two very determined people who said, listen, in the objective in the divine's option to make it work, and to make it work very successful. I find that to be an amazing fact because for many years, the distance the Jewish people had from their homeland made it difficult for people to comprehend to the full extent the greatness of the divine intervention. But in the last 75 years, and even a little bit beyond that, it is so obvious how on a very daily basis, God is trying to cherish his wonderful people. And when you read the story of how Jacob slowly but surely gets out of being a servant of his father-in-law and starts to develop an independent life, which eventually will lead him back to the Holy Land and to start to build up the future of what would be the children of Jacob or the children of Israel, you see how in every given moment, like the dream that he had, which he spoke to his wives about later, and said, listen, the God has told me to go back to my deliverance, something that we need to take upon ourselves. There's a beautiful legend found at the beginning of this portion, I'm sure Rabbi Goldberg is familiar with, and that is about a person who goes on a boat ride. Now, when you go on a boat ride, person, especially until about 50, 60 years ago, had a tendency to become seasick. And the Jews, as you know, do not work on the Sabbath. And it was found in the Talmud that people that go on a voyage should actually leave at least 3 days before the Sabbath. Why? Because when you go on a voyage on the sea, for the first 3 days you are seasick, and when you get to Saturday, you're not going to be relaxed. And therefore, if you're really going on a cruise or on a trip, you should leave no later than Tuesday afternoon. As a matter of fact, even in modern times, there are people who say that if you take a planned operation in hospital, not something which is sudden, but something that's pre-planned, you should also try to do it in the first 3 days of the week so that you'll already feel relaxed by the time you get to Saturday. Essentially, what we are suggesting is that if a person is going on a mission, which is positive and is a commandment, you're living allowed to go on Friday, even though you're going to be a bit exhausted on Saturday. How come? Because the whole mission becomes something which is positive. A person who is committed and believes in the truth of God and is working in his own way with the determination that God is to our assistance, the whole procedure becomes a positive act. And if, as you mentioned earlier about the golden calf, the 0.5% may have been involved, 3,000 out of 600,000, it shows how many people were committed to the mission that was forthcoming and that we are looking forward to something positive, which is way beyond what we would naturally comprehend. I am 100% convinced. My father, of blessed memory, was born in 1920. His grandparents would have not dreamed to see what we see today, even in their most positive thoughts on a national level. And I would like all of you, when you leave this session today and carry on this week, to try to think all the way through the missions that you plan to do this week. What part are you involved in? And what part do you aspire and pray that God will be with your assistance in order to implement it all the way? I think a person who feels that double role, on the one hand, that you must do something yourself, and at the same time to have faith that God is helping us make it work, that combination, not to distance yourself from personal activity, to play a major role in the world, but to never lose faith that it can work. Once you have that mission, it has a very good chance that it'll work. In fact, in psychology, they say that 50% of the failure is because people don't believe in the first place they can make it work. A person who has God in the background and seriously believes in him, it gives you so much potential and strength. There have been recent studies here and in America that people who know when they're in hospital, that there are others who pray from them. It doesn't even matter what denomination they belong to. It helps a lot in the recovery. Just to know that there are people out there who care about you and are committed to appeal to God for the well-being of yourself, help you make it through as well. And I want to wish that feeling towards you and also wish you a very healthy and successful week, and having in mind at every given moment that mission of God. That's what Jacob said to Rachel and Leah, and that's essentially the way we should run our families today as well. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer questions related to this mutual personal involvement and belief in God all the way through, as a very fundamental issue, which is shared by religion as whole, as long as it's for a positive purpose.
Oh, Rabbi, this is the first time I've ever heard. It was such a joy to hear Rabbi Goldberg say that the nations of the world lost their direction and went into an exile per se at the time of the Tower of Babel. And we as human beings, we all try to understand our individual purpose for being here on the earth. That makes sense for us feeling that sense of loss, that we're in a degree of exile, and how can we make steps to understand the fulfillment or where our purpose lie as individuals?
Well, there are so many opportunities today that you can be an assistance for other people. It's even hard to imagine how many opportunities there are. And I want to add one word which sounds a little bit because of my American birth as well. There's a lot of acts of kindness that don't cost 1 cent, and they're a definite commandment. Everybody thinks that when you're trying to be generous, it means you have to be very charitable and spend fortunes of money. No, there's plenty of acts that don't cost 1 cent that are being very kind. For example, you go to visit somebody in the hospital and you bless 10 other people who are not feeling well, people that you don't even know, and you ask about their well-being and you pray, you say a couple of words on their behalf. That's a very simple thing to do. I had a quasi situation earlier last week. I was on a bus and I saw coming where I was sitting a pregnant woman, probably 7th or 8th month, getting on the bus. I quickly stood up and gave her my seat. There happened to be a nasty 11-year-old boy who took my seat instead. I don't care, but I was upset because I wanted to give her an opportunity to sit and to feel in good condition. I didn't want, on the other hand, to criticize a 10-year-old or 11-year-old. I don't need the seat. I wanted her to have a seat. And I had a chance of doing a commandment perfectly for somebody who really needed. But these are very simple things. They had something in the Israeli parliament last week. I was a bit impressed. Somebody announced he found a 200 shekel bill. He announced it, and anybody who lost it, he's willing to give it to him on the spot. These kind of small things, I feel touched, because when you do something which is so natural and you do it because the Torah tells us that this is an ethical way of behaving, this is something, Dan, you can get into it directly. You don't even have to be pre-planned with this. You have guidelines of God, and all you have to do is see that he gives you the opportunity. That's all.
Well said, Rabbi. Last week I went out.
I think in those cases, it's the natural.
Yeah. Last week I went out with my wife and met up with Angelica and her husband, and we had a get together on the lake. And the point being, I went and I paid for my lunch and my wife's lunch. And of course, I only had $100 bill, so I paid for it with that. And I did not notice when the lady gave me the change. Okay, she gives me the change. I kind of just quickly looked at it and put it in my pocket. The point is, the following day, like you said about looking for opportunities, the following day, I felt bad because this place was like 40 kilometers from my house. It's not like I could just run back immediately and say, "Oh, you gave me too much change. Here's your extra $20 bill," right? But I was feeling bad about it. I said, I got to do something. And then some friends reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to help out with this cause?" And boom, so you do it, right? The opportunity came and I felt clean, right? Somewhat. I mean, should I have gone all the way back to give it to the source that I know I received too much change from? Of course, in an ideal, but I hadn't noticed until the following day when and so I'm running through my brain, where did this extra $20 bill come from? And I going through and I'm like, I got to do something nice for somebody. And if you look for opportunity, just like you say, it presents itself, and Hashem opens those kind of opportunities, those doors. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have any questions for the rabbis?
But it's quiet today. They want more stories.
That's unusual for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It'd be great to have a series of stories, and like it'd be cool to have it on a USB key just to like, you know, have it, you know? What do you say?
Stories is one of the most important ways how to get related one to each other.
But remember, they're only clothes, right? I really appreciate that part of the message today. Don't get caught up on the clothes. You got to see the meaning behind the story for sure. Rabbi, I wanted to welcome Chantel here with us today. She requested the link from me last week, and I think she did a pledge just a few weeks back. But Chantel, welcome to the group, and hope you're enjoying the class. Always a joy when more people join us. And if you do want to join in on the actual Zoom meeting out there, feel free to reach out, and I'd be glad to share the Zoom link with the appropriate people. We don't want trolls that'll disrupt the class, get the boot real quick. But we've always had a really good group here in this class. If you just look at the gallery.
Dan, did we answer the question in chat? Zoom chat.
Talking about James' question.
Yes.
I don't see any questions. I'm checking.
I presented a question to Rabbi.
Kimberly had the question.
I didn't really understand the question, I must say. I saw the question, and I want James, it's a personal, James sent a personal message to Rabbi Shmuel Hershler, so you can answer him on the personal way. I didn't really 100% understood Kimberly question, okay? Basically, it says that, I will say something like that, and this might answer the question. One of the most important things that God is doing, He is withdrawing Himself, place to others. And when Noah went out from the ark, so God promised that He won't do a flood again. And the same thing here is He's avoiding from Laban to harm Jacob. And this thing of avoiding and giving others space, this is the beginning of everything. And this is why the part in the Hebrew tradition that is explaining how to relate one with each other starts with 6 chapters, how not to harm others, but to avoid from harming others, because this is the way of giving space to others. And this is more or less the same principle, the principle of God, who says He doesn't want to harm the world, therefore He won't bring the flood again. And He is also forcing, I will say, or pushing Laban not to harm Jacob. It's the same idea. I hope it answered Kimberly. Okay.
So here's
Yes,
the question
Carlo.
that I directed to Rabbi Hersher. I don't know if you all can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a celebrity. His name is Rob Reiner, and then his father. They're well known here in America.
Yeah, Meathead. Yeah.
Yeah. He publicly stated that he lost faith in Judaism, faith in Hashem, because of what happened in the Holocaust. How would the rabbi, either one, speak to that? Are you saying that because I'm thinking of Laban losing the blessings? How would you speak to that as far as the Torah, or in your own opinion, or in your own experiences? Because I'm sure those two men are not the only men who stepped away and said, forget this. Hashem didn't save us. He punished us. Hashem didn't save us. He wiped out 6 million people. For what? Why did He allow that? That's my question.
Let me say just briefly, I mean, and this could be a subject of its own for a number of sessions, certainly not even a 15-minute comment in any way. But let me give you a couple of general thoughts. I'm not by any means saying this covers, but I want to give you some thought in your mind. There's an English expression which has an Hebrew equivalent and in other foreign languages as well, that often we preach to the converted. Namely, the Holocaust had many effects and influences on people's faith. Some people dropped, some people upgraded their faith. And a lot is dependent on where the person was before the events, and often what he experienced or she experienced during the course of the period itself. By no means anybody can explain or should try to explain the severity of atrocities that occurred. God never promised that he will always be protecting us physically in all occasions. But one thing I could just give you a little bit of some fruitful thoughts. I don't know if it helps, but it gives you somewhat of a perspective. The second temple was destroyed in the year plus 70, and 65 years later was the ending of what was called the Bar Kokhba revolt by the Romans. From a historical perspective, people take the devastation of the Second Temple's destruction to be tremendous. But the massacre of the revolt of events 65 years later was light years more immense than at the time the temple was destroyed. Meaning between the years 132 and 135, about 500,000 Jews living in Palestine and around the world were massacred, which percentage-wise, compared to the size of the Jewish community at the time, was close to the figures in the Holocaust. In the Holocaust, in August 1939, the eve of World War II, there were 18 million Jews around the world. So about 32% of world Jewry were exterminated, 32 to 35%. In the Bar Kokhba revolt, the numbers were much smaller in general, but the percentage was similar. And yet, what people remember more obviously is the actual temple destruction. What has happened in the 20th century is that the pace of how world events take place is much more rapid than it was for centuries before. 3 years after the Holocaust ended is when the state of Israel was born. The plight of world Jewry at the end of the 19th century, from Russia to the United States, included more than 3 million people who relocated. Just imagine if those 3 million would have remained in Russia during World War II, the numbers would have been much worse than you can imagine. In other words, there already was a change of the whole map of world Jewry, building up 2 huge world centers compared to a small religion. That's in Israel and in the American continent. And Europe dropped immensely. And after the state of Israel was born, also the Middle East and Africa emptied out to this country as well. So what exactly is the master plan is beyond my comprehension. But what I can say to you is that I totally understand and have sympathized with people who had difficulty to maintain their faith. But even more impressed with people who upgraded their faith, seeing the master plan of how God is operating in his world. And we also get a perspective of our lives. I have my father's side originates from Hungary. And when Eichmann came into Hungary between May and mid-June 1944, more than 10,000 Jews were killed every day by average. within 6 weeks. 450,000 people lost their life. Since the state of Israel was born, including all the wars the country has gone through to date, 24,000 soldiers have lost their lives, which is terrible. But that's 2 days in Hungary for 75 years of the state. So we have a different perspective of life that is occurring, and that we are grateful where we are. I'll tell you one last thing about this point. I was in we had a debate, so to speak, of 3 rabbis who were on a panel related to the Holocaust. This was a couple of years ago. The best question all 3 of us had to asked was by a woman who at that stage, this is more than 20 years ago, wasn't a spring chicken even then. And she said, "Rabbis, why did I survive?" And I'm telling you that I was almost in tears just hearing the question. The other questions were much easier to answer, but she asked the real question. Why out of 50 some people of her family, she was a survivor, managed to build a family out of it and restart herself again? I think that to a certain extent, this is a real serious question. The drive that a person has to rebuild himself and to make something out of it. And it gives so much strength to people who managed to survive and weren't part of it. And I've met personally more than 10 or 12 people who were sole survivors from a whole family, and to see how they managed to develop themselves up is something that is beyond any faith that you can imagine. If you think of even the people like Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, they didn't encounter what some of these people went through, and yet to a certain degree, and look how far they got to. And I've met people like that in person. So your question is obviously valid. I'm not intending to answer you, but I'm giving you a different perspective, which definitely can help you.
I hope that helps answer your question, James. Anybody else got any questions, or are we going to start winding it down?
Before Italo will ask, I will say something. This is a session by itself, okay? We need to learn this. The only thing I can say, you see here, you see this? This is the story of my family, okay? And my family also ran away from Europe. By the way, they were also in Belgium part of the time. Spirit, while speaking about this once. This is a special session, as Rabbi Shmuel said. I will say one thing, because we're learning Genesis. There's one thing I will say. How many brothers there were with Abraham? How many brothers Abraham had? Who knows? Who remember? You don't need to guess. I will show you.
7.
No. Abraham had, no.
Nahor, isn't it? Nahor was his brother?
Yeah, exactly. Nahor, and who else? Nahor is one of them. Okay, let's see for a moment. It's written down here. Just to see for a moment, okay, about things. Please read verse number 27.
27, and these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. So Abraham had 2 brothers.
Okay, so there are 3 together, okay? The continuous of Terah. And then we have in 28. What happened in 28?
And Haran died during the lifetime of Terah, his father, in the land of his birth in the Ur of Chaldees.
What exactly the story? Who remember that? I think Rashi is bringing it, right? Rabbi Shmuel. Rashi is bringing the story. The story is going like that.
It says, and Terah died in Haran. This happened after Abraham had left Haran.
Just one. Here it is. During the lifetime of Terah, his father. Please read it.
During the lifetime of Terah, his father, literally, on the face of Terah, his father, during his father's lifetime, and the Midrash Agadah, Genesis Rabbah 38:13, tells us that he died on account of his father. For Terah complained about Abram, his son, before Nimrod for crushing his idols. So he, Nimrod, cast him, Abraham, into a fiery furnace, and Haran sat and thought, well, if Abraham is victorious, I am on his side. And if Nimrod is victorious, I'm on his side. Yeah, these are people that play the fence, sit on the fence. And yeah, when Abraham was saved, they said to Haran, whose side are you on? Haran said to them, I am on Abram's side. And they cast him into the fiery furnace, and he was burned. This is the meaning, of the fires of Chaldees.
The fire of the Chaldeans. Just a moment. Enough. What we see here, that we have, the family have 3 people, and a third of this family was being born, they throw him to the fire and of the chambers of Ur-Kasdim, right? Just like what happened to the Hebrew nation before they came, and from there on, the next 2 verses after that, God is saying to Abraham, go to Israel, to leave your birthplace and go back to Israel, okay, to the land of the Canaan. So we see here that just before Abraham is building up his nation in Canaan, in the Israeli place, third of his family is being killed in the chambers of Ur-Kasdim. Abraham was the last survivor of the Hebrew nation. They were all being thrown to the chambers. It's not the first time in history that it's happening. The same thing that happened in this history that we have today, that third of the Hebrew nation, 6 million people, were killed before the redemption of the Hebrew nation.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to show that, just like Rabbi Shmuel also said, it's much more complicated, this story, and we need to do a session about this, okay? Not to answer, but just to realize. Now, we'll give Italo to ask because we need to finish. It's a very long one. Please, you want to ask something, Italo, or not now?
Hello?
Okay. Fair enough. The only thing is, I won't be able to be next week, but I will give you a note later on this week, done. Okay,
Yep.
So publish. I will speak with Rabbi Shmuel. Maybe he will replace me. Next week, I have something with my family that I can't do
It happens. Yeah, we've been going steady. We haven't taken a break since the holidays. So, yeah, you've been teaching some great stuff these last few lessons. I've been saving these broadcasts in a separate cloud folder for you. So, yeah, excellent material. Yeah, so we're going to be up in the air for a class next week. Keep your eyes and ears posted. I will always post it up on social media, on Facebook pages for sure. I did.
Dan, if you want perhaps a subject like the art of debate in Jewish perspective, maybe, I don't mind. If you want, I'm willing to give the session next week on that subject if you'd like. The art
Well, it might help from a perspective of, say, conflict resolution. Yeah, sounds great.
It sounds interesting. It also fits in the portion of next week, but it also something which I think is quite essential in our way how to handle conflict. Yeah,
beautiful material. Yeah, that's something we definitely all could benefit from. Sounds good to me, Rabbi Shmuel. I so appreciate you sitting in these classes and sharing insights. They're always, and even though it might be just a small segment, it's always very, very profound material that can be unfurled. Thank you very much. And Rabbi Goldberg, yes, thank you so much for today's lesson. Beautiful, beautiful material, Rabbi. And we look forward to seeing more of you down the road. I'm sure we won't see you. Don't see you next week. We'll see you maybe the week after. Let me know. So keep an eye out for the posts. I did post that I would be on in about an hour from now with Rabbi Carmi Ingber, but he got called away, so that class is with our Working Together series on the Nativ group is canceled for later on today, but I will be back with tonight with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz. So we're gonna sign out for today. Until next time.
Bye-bye.